Good morning. We are starting our next Wake Up Wellness call. I am super excited to just share with you today we're going to just talk about the phases of the Fit Over 40 program. Um, Sometimes I forget because after I've developed this and gone through it and tweaked it and changed it, I think, oh gosh, everybody knows these phases. And I just have to remember that the whole basis of this program is that it is the last time you'll ever need to quote unquote figure out how to lose weight. This is your lifestyle. I'm going to teach you the basics and the simple things you need to know and how to make those tweaks. And the beautiful part is being a part of the Fit Over 40 club or the membership is that you'll have me to support you when you get stuck, when you get hit a roadblock and you're like, oh gosh, I've just been teetering at this same weight, Nikki, what can I do? And we can go back and take a look at some of the basic things. And I want to start with phase one. And phase one is, our calibration phase. And we actually stay in phase one throughout the entire first 28 days of our program. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It doesn't matter if you start within a challenge. It doesn't matter if you start with me as a private client. We all start at phase one. Even if you tell me, oh, I'm already eating healthy. Okay, that's great. Prove it to me. And so with phase one, it's simple. You guys all know that you get a power foods list. And I want you just to primarily eat off of that power foods list 80 to 90% of the time. So you're going to be looking at your power foods list. It's already divided into the major macros. So if you're brand new to nutrition and you don't even know what a macro is a macronutrient. And your three major macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fat. And depending on your belief, most quote unquote diets say, oh, okay, well, eat a percentage of your total calories for the day need to come from proteins, and a certain percentage of your calories need to come from fats, and the other portion of your calories need to come from carbs. So every single quote unquote diet out there is made up of some sort of combination of those numbers. So the beautiful thing about this program is we're not using one diet in particular. I'm showing you how to create a lifestyle that actually will allow you to cycle your macros. So that way your body is going to utilize carbs sometimes a little bit more, and then sometimes your body will utilize fats. We stick to at 40. I strongly believe, and until someone proves me different, this is how I will be sharing with you. And is I do believe we have to be eating very protein forward. So eventually we'll be getting to that protein targeting. But the whole point of me teaching you this is teaching it to you in phases. I want you to think about building a house. And this is a perfect example because we just had a hurricane come through, and I saw a house built on sand, and the entire foundation completely collapsed under one side of the house. And the pillars that are supposed to support the second floor were literally hanging and not supporting anything. And I want to just kind of relate that. So I want you to have this visual that we are not going to be creating a foundation on sand. Okay. We are going to be creating this foundation for the rest of your life on a hard surface. We're going to be pouring a concrete slab. And the concrete slab that we're pouring is going to be these habits we're going to create. And in the beginning, you might be thinking, "Oh my gosh, Nikki, this is so simple. This is so easy. I don't understand. How am I going to see results with this?" And I promise you, you are going to not only see results, you're going to be relieved that it is simple. And so I want us to start with this wonderful strong foundation. And our foundation is going to be our power foods. I want you to start thinking about your foods as your medicine. It's going to be the thing that heals you. It's going to be the thing that gives you energy. It's going to be the thing that emotionally gives you what you need as well. And I don't mean that in a like a dopamine rush, like sometimes you know how when you eat chocolate or you eat a piece of pizza, you get this great dopamine rush, and then all of a sudden you get a crash, and then you need to go back for more because you want that feeling of dopamine in our system. I don't mean that. I mean, I want us to utilize food in a way that it allows us to have we are not getting this hangry feeling anymore. We're not associating like irritable emotions or feelings towards our food. So I want us to think about food though as something that is going to give us the nutrients we need to decrease the inflammation in our body, to heal our gut, to also to burn our fat. We are a beautiful, beautiful machine that God has created, and we want to be able to put the foods into it that are going to literally burn the fat off of us and then utilize the foods we are eating and give us the great energy from the foods we're eating, but then when we're not eating we want us to burn off that excess fat, right? So I'll be teaching you that in phases. And if you're a part of our program, you're going to notice in the very beginning, phase one, and I'm just going to go through the 6 phases that you're going to go through. And as of right now, the program has 6 phases. That may change in the future, um, depending on, as our bodies change and as we get a little older, we might need to tweak things. But as of right now, I feel like these are pretty solid. So these are kind of like the pillars that are going to support the house. So, okay, so and the house is us. This is our home. This is where we live. And if this is not healthy, nothing else is healthy, right? And if we don't take care of this, we are not going to be able to live the life we want to live, right? If this is not healthy, we're not going to be able to play with our children. We're not going to be able to keep up. We're going to be exhausted every day. And eventually, as we grow older and we end up with grandchildren and we want to keep up with them, we're going to feel like we're getting left because we just don't feel good. And that's not a way to live. At least that's not the way I want to live. And I really feel like I'm going to be attracting other women that want to live this life of vitality till the day we die. And that is truly, I'm not looking to live to 100 and spend the last 10 years in a nursing home. I'm looking to, live to 100 and the night before I die, I just go to bed and I just don't wake up. That to me is living a life of vitality, is, living a life um, feeling amazing. And the only way we can do that is by putting the right foods in our body. And in our program, you guys have a workout program as well. And I mean, my background is physical therapy. So understand the importance of exercise. And I especially understand the importance of weightlifting and doing some, body weight exercises after we hit 40. We have to do that for our bones and for our structure. We have to have strong muscles to then to keep our muscles and our bones strong, because we don't want to end up with osteoporosis or osteopenia. So, yes, that is important. And that is part of my whole philosophy of Fit Over 40. I think about food, fitness, um, fun. you have to have fun, right? We can't be doing this without having some component of fun. And I really feel like that is important as well. So yes, we are going to have that, but when it really comes to the foundation, the concrete slab that we're building on, it's the food. The food is going to make the most difference. I don't know if you've ever heard the saying that abs are created in the kitchen. It's so true. You cannot out exercise a crappy diet. So if you have a crappy diet and you're eating like crap, your body will never be the way you want it until you change the food. And that's really where I find the most resistance when I start coaching people. They're like, "Oh, but this, but that." You know what? I might ask you to do some hard things, but if you're not happy with the way you look and the way you feel and mentally how you're feeling, or maybe how you're sleeping, or maybe your hormones are all out of whack, you're going to have to make some changes. And we are going to have to make some sacrifices and do some things you might not want to do. But when I tell you that when you finally are able to slip into a pair of jeans and buckle your jeans and you no longer have that muffin top hanging over the top, that feeling to me is worth way more than the 2-second feeling I get when I put a bite of chocolate or a cookie or something like that in my mouth. So phase one is always going to be about, eating off of our power foods list. It's going to be about logging our food, because here's the thing, as your coach, I have to see what you're eating. I have to be able to look in and go, okay, I can see here, maybe the percentages aren't looking right now, or maybe you think you're eating a healthy yogurt and you're actually eating a yogurt that is sweetened, that has lots of sugar in it. I actually find that a lot of times. I'll ask somebody, I'll be like, "Hey, let me see the label on your yogurt, or let me see the label on this." And I tell them, or I show them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's a problem." And so we just make a special tweak and a little specific tweak, and then boom, they start seeing some changes on the scale. So logging food, for especially the first couple months, to me is so important, because me as your coach, I have to be able to see what you're eating for me to be able to tweak it. I can't look at a calorie number and go, "Oh yeah," because you could be eating 1,500 calories in donuts, or you could be eating 1,500 calories in, salad with avocado and a grilled chicken and sweet potato. I need to see because what you're eating is way more important than this calorie number. Okay, so phase one, just really about off your power foods list, recalibrating our bodies. We just got to get our bodies used to eating these whole foods again. And then phase two, and actually in phase one as well, I do explain, like what a plate should look like, and how a plate or bowl, like you add in one from each category, meaning a food from your proteins, a food from your fats, and a food from your carbohydrates. And we have two types of carbs. So I usually sometimes I categorize like the carbs as your starchy carbohydrates, and then your vegetables. And really, because vegetables, like when I'm talking vegetables, I'm saying more of like your green veggies. Those have so much fiber in them that they're usually a wash when it comes to counting your carbs. When you're counting carbs, it's more your starchy carbs, like your rice, your quinoa, your sweet potatoes, your yams, your things like that. Those are the things that you're going to have to look at and really check your portions on, because most of the time, a portion of a sweet potato is going to come, and it's usually 2 to 3 portions of what we're normally eating. So we just start looking at what a plate looks like. Then in phase two, we actually look at the portions and we say, okay, now we've got this power foods list. Let's assemble a plate and let's make the portions according to the size that they really should be. And then I teach you those portions. And you have a handout inside of your challenge, and it'll be inside of your app. You'll always have the portions that you follow. when you're creating your plate, when you're creating a bowl, when you're creating a smoothie, they're all the same. You always have to follow the portions. So then in phase 3, that's when we start introducing intermittent fasting. And you will start to see we start with a very smaller window. So that way it doesn't really disrupt any cycles you may be having. If you happen to be, if you're still in perimenopause and you're still having a cycle regularly or maybe irregularly, it won't disrupt that. And the reason I say that is because we talk about intermittent fasting differently than most intermittent fasters. I feel like I've been guided through this process. I started intermittent fasting a couple years ago, and I probably, if I had to kind of put a name on it, I intermittent fasted like a man. And I didn't realize there was a difference, to be honest with you. And it wasn't until I was introduced to Mindy Peltz, who Dr. Mindy Peltz has written a couple books on fasting for women, and she is amazing. And as a matter of fact, I recommend it to all of my challengers that come through our 28-day challenge. I recommend they read it. I tell them this is literally going to change your life when you start to understand the why behind the benefits of fasting. So, one thing you will learn is I love explaining why. So if you ask me something and I tell you this is what we're doing, I love to be able to share why. So that way it makes sense to you. Because for me, if I'm going to change a habit that's hard, I need to know why I'm doing it, right? And so Mindy does a beautiful job explaining the why behind fasting on a cycle. And it is beautiful. When we think about it, we as women, you know, from the age of 10 to 13, maybe 14, we started our cycle. And that started us on a hormone cycle where we have a rise of estrogen, then we have a drop of estrogen, then we have a rise of estrogen, drop of estrogen, then we have rises of progesterone and drops of progesterone. And our bodies have, I feel, that beautiful cycle for the rest of our lives. We're used to it. And then all of a sudden, we hit perimenopause and menopause, and boom, we stop our cycling. And what happens? Our hormones hit the floor. We start feeling like crap. We don't understand what's going on. And we don't change our way of eating. So, my 30s, I was really introduced to eating clean and looking at that plate that we talked about. And I ate a very, very balanced plate. My meals really never changed. I ate, you know, a serving of protein at every meal. I always ate a fat at every meal. I had a complex carb, and then I had unlimited veggies. And that's how I ate for a lot of times. I ate 5 meals a day. And I realized after I hit 40, that was just not working for me anymore. And I realized as well as it really wasn't working for most women. So when intermittent fasting, I understood the concept of that, I realized, wow, this is a beautiful concept. I can still eat a balanced plate, but at sometimes I'll be a little bit more fat forward. Sometimes I'll be adding a little bit more carbs, depending on where my cycle is, because at this point in my life, I still am having some cycles. They're just very irregular. So I want to get myself back onto more of a regular type cycle, eating cycle, which will then help support my hormones. So when we talk about Fit Over 40, 3 things: burn, they start with B's, burn fat, boost energy, balance hormones. Okay. Those are our 3 main goals with this program and for our life, right? As our lifestyle goes, those 3 things. We want to be able to burn fat. We want to be able to boost our energy because we want to have the energy to go the life we want. And we also want to be able to balance our hormones. I think my microphone just changed. So if I sound a little different, I apologize.
Nice. Um, okay. So because of that, with the foods we're eating, also with the intermittent fasting, and we do it on a cycle, and I will teach you step by step how to do that. Um, in phase three. You're in phase three, though, we're just starting to learn how to intermittent fast. And then as we start into the following months, we start working on cyclically fasting, which will help support our bodies. And then we get into phase four. And some people stay in phase four for a little while. Some people really don't need to stay in it very long at all. It just really depends on your weight loss journey, how far you're in it, how much further you need to go. Um, we take a look at your overall calories. We look at your macros, and then I have you start actually tracking your like masses. Like you literally start measuring out your food because here's what happens. And I found this to be so true with me and my journey and all the women that I've coached is we look at something and we look at that as a serving. And then when we actually measure it, we realize, wow, we're either under eating or we are overeating. And this is not something that we have to do forever. Just like tracking our food, we don't have to do this forever because you'll start to figure out really quickly what foods we need to be eating. And you'll figure out really quickly then what your portion size visually looks like. Our eyes are so used to having these massive portion sizes that at restaurants and even things that we've created for ourselves, that it sometimes takes you a little while to realize, oh, wow, I was just eating two portions of that. And I thought I was only eating one and I was only tracking one. No wonder I am not losing the weight I'm eating or losing the weight I want. So we do end up tracking our foods and then we move into phase five. And phase five is actually where I will create you a specific calorie target. And then we break up that calorie target into what macros you need to be in. And that's really where we start doing that cyclical fasting and intermittent the fasting along with your calories. So certain times during the month, um, and if you don't have a period, I want to share this with you too. If let's say you're postmenopausal and you no longer have a cycle, I still have you eating on a cycle because for the last 40 years of your life, maybe even longer, you had a cycle and that was when your body felt the best. So we want to take our bodies back into. And the beautiful thing about fasting, the beautiful thing about eating power foods, the beautiful thing about all of this is it allows you to be flexible. It is not some 100%, you have to do this for the rest of your life. It's this 80-20 rule. Sometimes it's a 90-10 rule, depending on if you're really type A. And it allows you to be forgiving. If you're going on, if let's say you're celebrating, well, the holidays are coming up in the next couple months. There's going to be times when we're going to be celebrating. We need to do that. That's part of life. On Christmas Eve, I host Christmas Eve, and I usually do a big charcuterie table. And I allow myself to eat some things that I wouldn't normally eat during the rest of the year. But I also know that the days following, I can fast a little longer. I can maybe be a little bit more strict with my foods. It's a give and a take. And most quote unquote diets that you are given by either a guru or a book don't allow that. And you always have this thought of, oh, just fell off the wagon and I'm done. Part of what you will learn from me. And if you happen to hear last week's wellness wake up call, it was all about coaching and right up here. And I talk about this a lot, and we'll be coming back to this a lot because this right here, the thoughts we have are going to be why we will never have to go on this diet roller coaster ever again. Once we learn how to control this, our weight will never change. And that is really where it's hard for some women to think about. And that's also the component that is missing in everyone else's program. I I teach how to look at your thoughts and how your thoughts will end up creating the results you want. So if you want a 20-pound weight loss, you've probably lost that 20 pounds a couple times in your lifetime, but you've probably put it right back on. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me, right? And you're looking for something else that possibly can help you. Well, the when I can teach you, I teach you how to self-coach yourself. And part of our calls each week, I can then, if you jump on one of our group calls, I can coach you through one of your thought models and help you. We call it the STEER method. And I have a worksheet. I walk you through STEAR. Those all stand for something. But that's one of the things that I feel like most programs are missing, and it is a strong part of what I teach in our program. It's part of those foundational, it's part of that concrete foundation. If you do not have the right thoughts, your weight will go right back on right after you're done. You can end with me, and if your thoughts go haywire, you're going to end up putting that 10 to 12 pounds that you just lost in the challenge. And so that's why I feel like having the accountability of a coach and having someone who can walk you through this thought model of going, hey, you know what? Let's look at that thought that you're having right there, and let's do a thought model on that. And they see how that could be so harmful to have that thought. So then we reframe it, put a new thought in there, and it changes their minds. Not only that, it blows their minds because it gives them this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I am in control now of my results. And it's amazing. So, I don't even know how I got off on that tangent about the self-coaching, but that is such an important part of our program and things that you will learn from me. And I'm so proud of that, being a part of that, because it changed my life. It changed my business because I learned it actually. I don't know, you know how certain people are just brought into your life at the right time. I had two separate coaches brought to me utilizing this same method. And I was like, okay, yep, I need to learn this. This is something I need to learn so I can teach it to my clients because it will change your life as well. And then, okay, so let's just really quickly review. Phase one is power foods. We're really just trying to recalibrate our body by building strong foods, utilizing good, healthy foods, and we're going to start tracking everything we eat. Phase two, we start looking at portions. We're looking at the sizes, and we're going to look at the portions. Phase three, we're going to just start with some very simple intermittent fasting a couple days a week. Phase four, we are going to measure and do some mass tracking of our food. So that way we feel we're confident in the sizes of the portions we're eating. And then in phase five, you will get a personal calorie and macro target of what you're going to be eating. We will be creating your personal cycle on what your targets will be on certain days of the month. And then the last phase is going to be making sure you're hitting your protein targets and your fat targets. And those are the most important macro targets that you're going to need in order to burn fat, boost energy, and balance your hormones. So I hope, and if you guys have any questions about this, I want you to reach out to me. This is so important to grasp these phases and understand that I am teaching you the best foundation you will ever need. And I am confident that this is going to be the last diet, because it's no longer a diet. I am teaching you a lifestyle that you'll be able to live from now until the end. And you're going to feel great. You're going to heal faster. You're going to have less injuries. You're going to have less symptoms of skin issues. You're going to have less gut issues, because the foods we're going to eat are going to be healing foods. They're going to be anti-inflammatory foods. And over the course of the time you're with me, yes, we'll be discussing supplements, because as we know, foods are not created equal anymore. Our soil is depleted of nutrients, meaning our foods are not going to be as nutrient dense as they used to be. So I do believe that there are some things we need for supplementation, but that does not happen in the beginning. I actually want you to start off simple and start off utilizing food, and then we start adding in gradually, little by little, things like that. So I hope this explained the 6 phases. I hope this excites you. And if this is something that you want to be a part of, and you want to experiment, and you want to try out our 28-day, I usually call it my 21-day challenge, but then I usually add in extra free week for everybody. I have a 28-day challenge that starts you off in phase 1. You have an app that downloads all this information for you. You get step-by-step instructions right from me, and you have daily access to me as your coach. So if that's something you're interested in and you're not a part of our program yet, reach out to me and I will send you a application. You can fill it out and jump into our next challenge. So I hope that answered any questions about our Fit Over 40 program and the 6 phases. And I hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.